Welcome to Belief Busters Podcast, where we change the world one belief at a time. True transformation happens when we question if the beliefs we hold are of truth, or simply someone else's belief that we have internalized as our own. I'm your host, Rev. Cherie Taylor-Jones, and I'm glad you could join us on the journey. Today we have Melissa Kitto, and she is a spiritual coach and consultant originally from Christchurch, New Zealand, now residing in Richmond, Virginia. She teaches tools so that people can communicate directly with their angels and find their own answers. Melissa also teaches how to develop intuition and find your unique life purpose. She has over 30 years experience in the spiritual and personal development field, and I've invited her to talk to us about how we can trust our inner guidance and go directly to our guides. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
It is. It's really great to be able to have these types of discussions because I don't know about you or our listeners, but for a long time, I felt like if I needed to do that kind of work, I had to go to someone else and listen to their wisdom and listen to their guides. So I guess my first question is, did you always know that you could speak directly to your angels and guides?
I didn't always know, but I actually came across this ability, these tools from a pretty young age. So I was 12 years old. So, I've been doing this for a long time, but actually at the time when I was learning this stuff, and it was kind of through my mother, I didn't know if I believed in it. It sounded a bit weird. I felt uncomfortable. And yet I started to have experiences that allowed me to suspend that disbelief, that I could see angels around me. I could feel their energy. I could feel their presence. And I still to this day say I can't prove that to anybody. Everybody has to have their own experiences to know what's right for them. But I think that's the key, is to not just talk about this, but to learn how to experience it for yourself.
So what was your process to kind of let go of the woo woo and weirdness and to really get in touch with, your gifts?
Yeah. Well, I think I was lucky enough to be young enough where I didn't have a whole lot of years of programming to reverse.
Yes.
And this is what I help my clients with now, is it's like no matter what age you are, whether you're 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, beyond, right? It's like if you have a desire to learn this, you can. And for most people, we've been taught for many years, that's not real. It's just your imagination. I had those kind of messages when I was a child. I would feel something in my room or feel energy, and my parents said, no, you're just making it up. So, all of a sudden I'm told, oh, I can't trust myself. That's not real. And we start to doubt, ourselves and our natural abilities. And even if you have great parents that foster that, there's still so many messages all around us in society or school, or where it tells you to be logical, to not, do that stuff. So it's about, especially that message of, oh, you're just making it up. It's just your imagination. One thing that really helped me and helps my clients is to realize that your imagination is powerful. That is your intuition. And if you are experiencing something and feeling something, that is real for you. So it's about we have two parts to our nature. We have our feeling nature, which is our intuition, our psychic ability. And then we have our thinking mind, our intellect, our logic. And we need both of those. But most people are way too much in their intellect.
Yes.
So it's learning to bring those feelings to the forefront and trust them, which if you're out of the habit of that is not easy at first.
I'll give myself as an example. When I was a kid, I had spiritual experiences. I could see beyond the veil. It was clear that they were spirits that, I could communicate with. And I learned I had to shut that down very early, that was not allowed, that was not acceptable. And even to the point of it was not of God. It was maybe even a little on the evil side, right?
Right.
So those were the lessons that I learned. So I, shut all of that down very early. And even to this day, it's still very difficult for me to open up that channel. So what would you suggest, even for someone like in my case, who may have had gifts, but has like clamped it down so tightly that not much is happening there?
Yeah. Well, and even if a person has shut it down, which most people have, to be honest,
Yes.
but everybody is psychic, everybody is intuitive, whatever word you use for that, it doesn't really matter too much. But I think the first step is actually starting to pay more attention to the feelings, hunches, impressions that you actually are receiving every day. So even if a person has shut themselves down, the reality of who we are is spirit, right? You are energy. So as energy, you can't really deny that. It's actually your natural state and your
Mm-hmm.
natural ability. And it actually takes a lot more effort to shut that down than just
Absolutely.
to let it flow, right?
Yeah.
So I think the first step is like paying attention to when are you getting a hunch or an idea popping in your mind or an aha moment. And for some people, it comes in different ways. For some people, they might hear something, hear a message. And for a lot of people right now, they're probably thinking that's just their own imagination or their own thoughts. But
Right.
a lot of times it actually is coming from their spirit guides. Another great way to start paying more attention to when you're receiving guidance is when you have a feeling of chills or tingling or goosebumps on your body. And that's a sign to pay attention. It's a confirmation that you're on the right track. That's actually because your guides have a high vibration of energy all the time. You can feel that extra backing when they're, sending you energy. It's that sensation of like chills, goosebumps, kind of a thing. So that's another great thing to pay attention to. Okay, oh, I just got chills. What's happening in this moment
Right.
that I need to acknowledge? And as you start to pay more attention to these experiences, you realize that you are, having a spiritual communication. You just weren't acknowledging it.
Over time, I've developed some of those techniques that you just mentioned, and it's no longer scary. I think for me, the first big breakthrough was that I don't have to be afraid. Like, I don't have to be afraid of demon possession. I don't have to be afraid of being misled, And
Yeah.
so there was this wonderful awakening to being the divine having a human experience. And now, opening those types of channels. I think as a society, we are starting to get that we are spiritual beings.
Yes.
Is there more to work to do to really get in touch and have those conversations now, make it more real and vivid?
Yes. And that's where a lot of people discover my work because they are getting signs and messages and guidance. And it's getting to the point where they can't shove that to the side anymore. They want
Right.
to, right? It's
Yes.
like getting their attention and then they want to do something with it. And that's what I'm really passionate about is making this practical, not just having the random experiences like that's great. That's a first step. And also then you can take the next step, which is to really develop a relationship with your spirit guides and to be able to have a conversation with them. So, one of the things that's really helpful to learn about is that we have 4 spiritual gifts or spiritual abilities. And you mentioned one of them, which is clairaudience, or what I would call
Mm-hmm.
intuition. And there's also vision or clairvoyance, where a person is more prominent in seeing visions and pictures and symbols. There's also the gift of feeling, where a person more prominently will feel things and even body sensations. And then there's also prophecy, which is more of an inner knowing and a sense of the future. So you can learn which one of these is strongest for you. And we actually have all 4, but we
Yes.
have them ordered in a certain way.
Yes.
Um, and that first gift is your first impressions. And you're going to be most successful when you're operating out of that first gift and then use your intellect to organize, okay, what am I going to do with this information? And I teach tools as well so that a person can have a two-way communication with their angels or their guides, to be able to ask a question and get an answer. And the reason why our guides can help us is because they have a bigger picture perspective. They're not part
Yes.
of planet Earth energy, so they can
Yes.
see things that we can't see. So they can help us to be in the right place at the right time and to do the things that are in alignment with our unique life purpose. They never tell us what to do or impose on our free will. And I love that you mentioned that demon possession thing, because that is a real concern for a lot of people.
Right.
And it's just about learning to distinguish energy. You know, our guides are never going to impose on us or tell us what to do. Or so if anybody is feeling anything like that, don't pay attention to it. Just keep your vibration high, and you're really just going to always get, you know, positive reassurance.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So give us a couple of tools on how to really open up that communication effectively, you know, where you are having the discussion, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Well, the first step to connecting with your guides is to be relaxed, to raise your vibration, so to speak, or to just be more of the real you in spirit. So there is a great tool. It's called the spiritual cleansing technique. And I can at the end share a place where people can go watch that video and practice it, because
Beautiful.
it's very simple and effective. And so I've had many people say to me, oh, I could meditate for 30 minutes, or I could do this cleansing for 30 seconds, and it kind of has the same effect.
Woohoo.
It's going to help you. Yeah, right? Sounds like an infomercial, but it works. And, you know, it's like then that communication becomes more prominent. And then another thing that people could start with is, rather than just a random message, what kind of feels overwhelming sometimes, you might say, okay, angels, like, what do you have to share with me today? Give me one word. And it's always helpful to do that cleansing first, so you're relaxed. And then you would just, you know, take a deep breath and listen for that one word that comes into your mind. I just heard relax there, which is a common one. Relax, trust, and patience are like over and over and over again.
Yes.
You can then ask for two words in a phrase. And just by doing that simple, you know, getting a few words come in, our angels don't always have really lengthy messages and talking. It's often very short and sweet.
Yes.
So you can get a lot of meaning from just a few words like that, and interpret, okay, what does this message mean to me, and how am I going to apply it into my life?
I like what you're doing is you're building a muscle from what you're describing, a muscle that we haven't used in a long time, for most of us, since childhood. And you're now giving people permission to use that muscle and change that belief and reframe it from something that is scary and not to be touched and woo-woo into, this is just an aspect of who we are as spiritual beings.
Yes, and to really trust in that is who you are, right? There was a little quote I saw a couple of years ago that's really stuck with me, and I'm paraphrasing slightly. I don't remember the exact words, but it was like, as spirit, you are spirit, so as spirit, you naturally communicate with spirit. Like, it's not even really a big deal. It's like, pass the salt, you're spirit, you know, so then it becomes natural. And this is where, you know, I have friends in my life where they are in that similar place of, we're no longer questioning if this is real and am I making it up, which is the concern that a lot of my clients have. So if people listening are feeling that, it's very common. But once you get past that, then the magic kind of happens, because I can now ask my angels for a suggestion, even little things like if I have a conflict in my schedule, like there's two things going on at the same time. Okay, guidance, which one is the highest priority for me? Or, you know, what are the things that are most in alignment with my purpose at this time? And how can I improve my relationships? And those really practical things that we're all going through, you can get some guidance and some assistance on. I mean, it's just so helpful.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
You also mentioned raising your vibration several times. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I almost hesitate to use those words because it seems like a greater than or lesser than thing in some way. But what it really is that you are energy. And so we can, because we are living in a world that has a lot of pressure, negativity, unfortunately, judgment, that can affect us, right? You are energy, so you are sensitive to feeling those things going on with other people or the environment, etc. And so we need to put a little extra effort into being more kind of expanded, more in your own energy. And you can even think of it visually. Like sometimes I do a technique with people where they can see an aura, which is your energy, but you're seeing it. And if a person does this cleansing technique, you can actually see that their aura becomes bigger, it expands, right? So it's allowing you to be more kind of centered and on your own pivot, and not so much kind of thrown around by the environment, right? Little things happen that get us off or get us feeling out of balance. And this, when you raise your vibration, you're just coming back to my true highest potential, you might say. And because our angels always have that high vibration of energy, they've learned to master that. Then when I cleanse, I'm kind of coming back up to that level. And that means that the messages from my angels are going to be stronger and more prominent. Whereas if I'm not cleansed, whatever's going on that day, then it's just harder for them to get through energetically. I'm not tuned. You can think of it as the analogy of tuning a radio station with the old dials. Like I've got to tune into that frequency to be connected. And then I can start really having that two-way communication.
And I think what you brought up about being in the world on planet Earth, there are a lot of energetic forces that we're bombarded with regularly. And I think part of that raising our vibration is about being centered, being clear in the truth of who and what we are, and honoring that and owning that and allowing that energy to really encompass us, so we're not just adrift on the ocean just pushing us willy-nilly, right?
It's really important to be intentional with that because planet Earth is more negative than it was really ever intended to be. It's like we just need to put in a little extra effort to stay positive, right? And
Amen.
And then think of that as being an example to the people around you, rather than being dragged down to the lowest common denominator. Help others to raise up, right?
Yes. I really do believe that that is our calling as we do this work here on Earth, really learning how do we own our spirituality? How do we own our energy to make this world a better place?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. What do you think is the one takeaway that you want our listeners to have from our conversation together today?
Well, I think it's to really start trusting your inner guidance. Listen to your feelings. Your feelings are guiding you. And there's a difference between feelings and emotions, right? Emotions are the ways I've been taught to feel. It's the reactions. It's come from programming and beliefs. And my true feelings is really my soul speaking to me. It's the good, kind, loving, sharing, understanding, fearless part of me. So that is where the truth lies. We are so taught to look outside of ourselves for answers and validation. And if you can take a little time to get clear about how do I really feel about this without being clouded by all the reasons why you can't do it or you shouldn't do it or other people won't like it, like just give yourself some space from all of that. Say, what is it I really want? And what is it that I really feel? And then you're going to start to have more clarity about your purpose and what you're here to do and on how to have more fulfillment in your life.
Brilliant. Thank you. Melissa, would you tell our listeners what you do and how they can get in contact with you?
Yeah, so my website is communicatewithangels.com, and I have a couple courses that are online. One is about learning to establish that communication with your angels and getting really confident with it. And the other one is called Life Purpose Mastery, where I help people really get clear on what is their unique spiritual purpose and their niche in life, how they can put it out there into the world. And if people would like to learn that spiritual cleansing technique that we've been talking about, they can go to communicatewithangels.com/cleansing. And I also have a YouTube channel that has lots of free videos and things that can YouTubers communicate with angels as well.
It's been a pleasure having you and just being able to have this type of conversation that I think is now becoming a normal type of conversation that we can have with each other. You know, it almost feels like there's been some kind of break in our society that now we can have these conversations and it's natural and it's normal. So for our listeners, I hope that you enjoyed this conversation really about accessing the truth of who and what you are. A divine human being, right? So we are spiritual beings having this human experience, and that doesn't mean that one supersedes the other. It's about how do we bring it all together for our highest good and for the highest good of our community. If you are enjoying these conversations about assessing your belief systems and how to transform outdated beliefs, then please subscribe and give us a positive review. To support this podcast and its transformative work, you can also become a sponsor for as little as $5 a month. You can reach Rev Cherie at info@beliefbusterspodcast.org. To continue on this journey of evolution, you can also get my book, Turning Your Why into Why Not, at Amazon or any other bookstores, which gives you practical tools to do this work. See you next time on the flip side.